Hey everybody, how's it going? All right, little hook up there for a second. Hopefully everything's okay. Let's see what's going on. Everybody good? Hold on. All right. I think I hit the wrong button there for a minute. See if we're good. There we go. Okay, we're good. All right. That was I hit a little wrong button there. I thought I stopped streaming. I did not. So everything's good. Okay. Hey, thanks for coming by today. That was my tune called Do You Remember? And it is off my first record called I'm Tired. And there's a cool version of that. I think there's lots of cool versions of that. One with Walter on it. So we did knock off Walter today. We didn't do the blues as usual, but I like that tune. That tune was always sort of a mix between a big Pink Floyd fan. So the set to controls from Heart of the Sun. Used to love the Uma Guma record. I still do. And kind of echoes, and then a little bit of Robin Trower in there with the Univibe thing. So yeah, so that's called Do You Remember? It's off the first record, and it's pretty much a staple of my set. So still like it. When you write something that long ago, and you're like, I still like this. Anyway, so today I have my new course is on sale, 60% off. It is Unlocking the Major Scale, a creative approach to learning the fingerboard. And I find most people, as we're going to talk about today too, that there is people have a problem getting the fingerboard together, and there's a good reason for it as well. So that's one of the things. Okay, if you just restart reload, it'll be fine. Refreshing, it works. That was my own stupidity on pressing the wrong button. Anyway, okay, good. Everybody's still here. Nobody lost any. Getting more people in. Okay. So one of the biggest problems is learning the fingerboard. It's funny. I've got a gig at the bitter end, and if you're in New York City, it's on Monday at 8:30 p.m. And it was my trio. You'll be hearing that song and more. So, all right. So everybody wants to come down. If you're in New York, that would be awesome in the New York area. And okay, so back to the major scale, learning names of the notes on the neck. Now I'll give you the pass on it. Because it's difficult. So when you think about piano, there's only one of, say, this E. There's only one. So if you're reading music, there's only one of that note. On the guitar, there's this, that. There's 5. If you have a 24-fret guitar, there's 6 of the same exact pitch. So it's almost like you have 6 pianos at the same time. So it's very difficult to kind of work through this stuff. Believe me, I know. It took a long time to learn the fingerboard for me. And so it's not you. Okay, so remember that it's a matter of putting the time into doing it and then trying to find fun ways to learn the fingerboard, which is usually the biggest pain in the butt, right? So the easiest way to start to learn your fingerboard, let's talk about one, and BB was kind enough to give me some suggestions as well. Sorry to get back to you on that. So the first one I think that works for a lot of people, you definitely want to learn, if you're going to start off, and let me just go over here, I got a little PDF for you. We're going to look at the major, C major. So we're going to look at just our low E string right now. The best thing to do is to start off with one string at a time. So the low E string, which is great if you learn your low E string, you know your high E string. They're the same. Right? So that's kind of obvious. So 2 down, right? So if you think about your root on the 5th string, root on the 6th string bar chords, right? So you want to think about as you go through these. So there's a few ways that I like to work on learning the scales. The worst way is to try to learn every note and using enharmonic spelling. So what I mean is like E, F, F sharp, and that's also a G flat, and then that's a G, and then that's a G sharp, and that's an A flat, and that's an A. Like that's just way too much. So if you learn your natural notes, so from the notes from the key of C, so you have E, we're going to start on our low E string. So our notes as you can follow, they're going to be E, F, G, A, B, C, D, and E. Okay? So let's talk about half steps and whole steps. In the key of C major, we have 2 half steps between E and F and B and C. So you want to try to start to memorize that thing. So the C major scale has no sharps or flats. So whether we started on E, E, F, G, A, B, C, D, E, F, G, A, B, C, D, F, G. If I started on A, B, C, D, E, F, G. We're talking about the key with no sharps or flats. So the half steps are always going to be between E and F and B and C. Now this is really helpful if you start to know what those are, because if you want to start to add in sharps or flats, it's really great to know if you have a half step or a whole step between B and C. this might be a little bit rudimentary right at the moment, but hang in there because it's pretty important. All right, so the first thing I would say to do is to just try to memorize your low E string. So E, F, same as you play them. G, A, B, C, D, and E. And then I would just go up to the 12th fret for today. You know, don't have to kill yourself trying to go up higher, because then you start going off the fingerboard. And let's just stick to the 12th fret, because everything repeats itself after that. So let's just make your life easier if you're not familiar with those. Because I find them always with students, I'm like, well, you know, what chord is this? And they're like, you know, I kind of know the fingerboard. And then you get there and you're like, I asked them to kind of really tell me what that note is, and they don't know it. So, like I said, you're not alone. So E, F, G, A, B, C, D, E. Same as you play them. Easy to kind of say them alphabetically, in order, but saying them backwards is a little trickier. So for me, I'll always mess that up, and if I'm thinking about the notes, I get it right. So E, D, C, B, A, G, F, E. So then I can think, well, I have those two strings together. So we're talking about this octave method. This is something that BB brought up as well, is the octave way to get this together is really important and really helpful. So the first octave we have is our low string and our high string. And if you just kind of isolate, I wish I could have my finger on the chart, which is over here. If you look at the high string there and the low string, they're exactly the same. So if you just ignore every other string and just go up and down those and start to try to memorize those notes. Really, really important. Is my sound going in and out? Somebody said they have a problem with the sound going in and out. Just let me know. I tested everything ahead of time. Okay, no audio issues there. Okay, good, okay. All right, so E, F, G, A, B, C, D, E, and then back down. Say them as you play them. E, D, C, B, A, G, F, E, okay? So when you're doing that, really concentrate. Now, you're not trying to do anything musical or, you're not trying to do any great guitar solo. You're just working on learning the fingerboard. So have some patience with yourself, if you're not familiar with it. Also, you could start to think about as bar chords, G major, F major, G major, D major, B, C, D, E. Okay, so let's say you've started to do that. Next thing we want to take a look at is our fifth string, because that's where most of our bar chords are going to be. Our most common bar chords are going to be root on the fifth string and root on the sixth string. So if we do the same exact thing with our fifth string, which is going to be A, B, C, D, E, F, G, and A. Back down. A, G, F, E, D, C, B, and A. Now, if you can't do them that quickly, that's totally fine, because, that's why we're here. You got to learn them, all right? Okay, so that would be the first thing, and just take it one day at a time. Okay, today I'm just going to work on my low E string. Okay, just going to do that for a while. And then I'm going to work maybe the next day on my fifth string or something. You want to always come back and forth to them. It's really important that you do them descending as well, because it's kind of easy to start to cheat and use your ear a little bit. Okay. All right, so the first thing is your octave method. So we started on the low E string, we had our low G, say right here, and then we figured out we had our high G up here as well. So if you do right here, I'm going to, if you look at your G bar chord, usually what your pinky plays there is an octave. So I have G, G, and G. So if I take a look even on my chart, if I look at that G on the 3rd fret, if I go right there, I have the G on the 5th fret of the 4th string, and then my high string. So this is a really important way to start to see your octaves, your notes as well. Now, ultimately, what you want to do is, E, D, E, F, G. You know that that's a G at some point, but that's a tall order at first. So it helped me a lot, even in college. I knew it in college when I got to college, but I didn't own it, if you know what I mean. Like, I knew it, but I didn't have it like that. So the octave thing was really helpful at first. So there's my octave for my G. So G, G, G. So the same thing can happen on your 5th string. So there's your C, for instance, A, B, C. So we have this octave right there as well. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8. So if I see this, I'm really covering a lot of ground. So if somebody says, well, play me an E on the 7th fret, right? So A, B, C, D, E. What's the octave above that? So if you think about your bar chord, or even your power chord, it's your note on the 5th string and your note on the 3rd string. Same shape as holds true when you're playing between the 6th string and the 4th string. And this one you have the benefit of having the octave right up top there. Okay, so that's going to work for a little bit. I'll get to any questions you guys have in a minute. That's going to work for a little bit. You're going to be like, okay, well, going up alphabetically, A, B, C, D, E, F, G. After a little while, that's can be a little like you're doing the same thing, right? It's in other words, sorry, just checking to make sure the sound is right. By running them up and down, it gets boring. Okay, then you got to memorize them that way. So a really cool thing you should do is to use flashcards, or take advantage of something like ChatGPT and say, randomly, give me 12 random rows of the notes of C major. So that's pretty cool, right? So okay, E, first one that comes up is let's say, first one that comes up is B. Okay, I'm going to play a B on my low string, and a B on my 5th string, and a B on my high string. And I'm going to try to work through my octave. So I'm going to try to play as many Bs as possible. So the first thing I want to do is find out where my first B is. I happen to know, after all these years, that it's on the 7th fret. Okay, and then I'm going to go to the octave right here. There's my octave for B, 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 and I have a B on the high string. So then where is my B on my 5th string? So I've covered all the strings so far. There's my B on my 5th string, which is on my 2nd fret. There's my octave. Now, one string that we haven't seen just yet is the 2nd string. Well, there's my B right there. But we do come up with a cool thing right here. When I go this octave right there, I have yet another octave stretch right here. So if you look on the PDF, when you see right here, I'm on the 7, 8, 9. I sometimes don't know fret numbers anymore. I just know the names of the notes. Like if I'm up here, I honestly sometimes can't think of what fret that is, but I do know that is an E flat, which is really funny. So I know the notes better than I know the fret numbers, which is totally ridiculous. Like totally, well, I think it's good. You should know that, but it's funny when people I've had that when I was doing stuff at TrueFire, and they're like, how come you keep on messing up the fret numbers? I'm like, I don't know, that's a B flat. I don't know, so 15, 16, 17, it's 18. And I'm not even joking, I just don't ever remember it, which is kind of funny. Anyway, so if you look in your chart, here's my B right here on the 9th fret of the 4th string. If I go up here, I have a B on the 12th fret of the 2nd string. So there's another octave. So this is really helpful. So I'm going to go through any strings as much as possible. Now the real trick is if you try to do one string at a time from low to high. So B. Here's my B. Okay, my 5th string. There's my B. Where's my B here? I could count up in that, but right now maybe you want to use your octave method. And where's my B here? Well, you could see as your tuning note, but there's my B octave. Now my 2nd string, where's my B? It's my open string. Or if I did this octave method here, if I knew it's the open string, I could just go to the 12th fret. And then I can go to my high string from that octave right there. So I would get... Oh, what am I doing? Oops! I'm going to go up through there. Okay, so with the random thing, let's say my next note is G. So what you don't end up doing is practicing everything alphabetically. With the random things makes you think about what note is coming next. The really helpful thing, certainly doing your octaves for G, that's really useful. But if you start to try to do one string at a time, that starts to help things sink in much, I don't want to say more quickly, but helps them sink in because you're thinking the octave each time, you're going to start relying upon that. It's fine at first. Whatever gets you to the next point, right? That's the thing. Like whatever gets you to where you need to be is totally cool. But you don't want to, you don't get too worried about it. It's going to take time. But the trick is you don't want to always rely upon the octave method. I think that's something that can get you into trouble. So the next thing I would definitely think about doing is in just one string at a time. So you're starting to know the names of the notes. This is where the dots come in handy sometimes, right? So if you start to memorize some of where the dots are, that's really helpful as well. So if I look at my D string, I'm still going to use the notes of C major. So no sharps or flats. I'm going to start on my D. D to E is a whole step. E to F is a whole step. F to G is a whole. G to A is a whole. A to B is a whole. B to C is a half. C to D is a whole. Now, really cool thing to start to try to do is maybe play, you know, let's just say you're going to play a D. That's a D5. Let it ring. So you get to hear those notes. Same as I play them, D, E, F. It's going to actually be a Dorian scale, excuse me. Well, just think about the notes and the sound. D, C, B, A, G, F, E, D. So I can do that on any note of the scale, which is kind of cool. So if I do it on a G, G5, I'm not going to play any thirds because it's going to start to kind of mess things up. So we just did like G, just G note. Right, start to hear the sound of those notes. Now, what's really something you should think about first then, and this is what I do in my course, I take you through learning your G major scale, which has 1 sharp, by playing a drone underneath it. And I find the drone thing is really, really helpful because sometimes people try to play over a background track, and a background track can lock you into like, you know, a drum groove. So you're going to be thinking about a tempo and a feel, and then you're going to be thinking, oh, I should be playing some cool stuff. But I'm in the key of C right here, so I'm just going to play a C chord, and I'm using a freeze pedal here and letting the notes ring. So check this out. Makes it much more fun to practice this stuff. Check it out. You by saying all of them. But I can also just listen to them. And start to try to make some music with them. One of the biggest things I've discovered, or I felt myself learning, and what I try to do with all my students when I was teaching one-on-one, try to do with all you guys, is to always think about music. Get to music as quickly as you possibly can. So while you're memorizing these notes, try to make it fun and musical. Because, you know, memorizing this stuff isn't all that fun, but, you know, you want to be good. It's not all fun. I've heard people say that. We talked about this before, like, oh, if it's not fun, then you shouldn't be working on it. Like, that's not true. Practicing my arpeggios was never fun. The result is fun, the end result, but sitting there struggling through them is not a lot of fun. It's work. So here, though, if we can add that, we mix a little bit of starting to know where the notes are and then making music with it, because we're not trying to create a solo. We're not trying to do anything other than to play the notes. And as we start to go through them and memorize them and say them, we can start hearing them and how cool they sound. So once again, I'll just play that C. Play my 6th string. Now take a minute to start to think about what notes sound really great. Nice. Perfect. It's the root. 7. There's the 6. 5. 4. 3. Now, especially on like let's say the 2nd string. Right, so you start to hear those sounds and as how they will start to lean and pull you towards certain notes. Generally speaking, the best sounding notes or the most harmonious ones will be the chord tones. So if I'm playing a C chord, C, E, and G are the notes of my C triad. So as you're going through the C major scale, make note of like, okay, well that note sounds really good. All right, is that the root, the 3, or the 5? So write down on a piece of paper, C major spelled C, E, and G, and as you're following that paper, oh, it's back in the mirror image. I'll get this right. Okay, it's back. If you're following this paper, print this out and then mark it up or something, or on your iPad or something. Mark up all the C, E's, and G's, so you start to see a C major triad all across the fingerboard. Now, a lot of you guys have my major triad courses, and this is another way of coming at the same thing. My Art of Melodic Soloing course, I talk about nailing the chord tones. In this course, the Unlocking the Major Scale is a direct companion to that course, because that course was more focusing in on chord tones. This one's taking, though I'm not playing over a chord progression, it's learning how to incorporate scalar sounds. I'm going to say secular, it's not true, scalar sounds, and then concentrating on maybe resolving on a chord tone, which is a really important thing to see, because if you're probably like me, when you first learn a major scale, and maybe if I feel this way, major scales are particularly difficult to solo with when you first learn them. They can sound kind of corny or just tough. That's why people use the pentatonic scale. But if you start to kind of dig into it and know them a little better and experiment with them, the door starts to open. And the main thing is everything is based upon a major scale, really. Everything that we talk about in Western music, it's all somehow related to a major scale. So in the course, which is on sale for 60% off, I do 1 string at a time, 2-note major scales, 3-note per string major scales, string skipping, 2 adjacent strings, melodic, sequencing, and all these things are, there's no solo at the end, like learn the solo. It's just trying to teach you how to be creative and get work done like this. I always made the separation between a major scale, learning the scale fingering, and then I'd just play the scale fingering, and I never thought about what it took to make music with it. So I think that's really important to see as you go through these kind of things. It's, is to just hear that sound, right? Let me just play this again. It's going to jam on C. Hold on. Let me get a better toe here. There we go. It's going to play the notes of C major. My 3rd string. 4th string. Now I'm not going up and down, I'm kind of just jumping around, right? String. 6th string. In position. String skipping in position. Oh, jumped out, right? Melodic sequencing. Right? So all these ways that you're learning the scale and at the same time developing your skills as a musician. I'm going to make note of what notes sound really good. Almost always going to be the root 3 and the 5. But the more you do it, you get comfortable with the sound of. Which is the 2 or the 9. Right? And if you took my Art of Melodic Soloing course, well, C major, C, E, G. So those are my 2 great notes, C and E, root and the 3. But my inside note, in between the 2, is the scale tone. So is it a passing note? Or is it a really nice colored tone? And the answer to that is sure. It's whatever you need it to be or whatever you want it to be. But by spending the time digging into the scale, I find that made a massive difference in my playing. It got me to know the fingerboard at a whole other level because although in the course I give you your G major scales, 3-note per strings, I talk about picking, I talk about legato and ways to play these things more fluently. But to use a cliche, at the end of the day, it's not about that. It's knowing how it's understanding how this scale works. And the feedback I've gotten from a lot of my students is, because I've been teaching this kind of stuff for a long time, they're like, oh, wow, I'm in a really short period of time, I'm moving around the fingerboard. And think about all our favorite guitar players, they're always moving around, they're not stuck in one position. And this drone thing, you guys all saw, remember years ago, the Eric Johnson Total electric guitar, and the beginning of Austin City Limits, when he hits that chord tone, or that note, right? And I think I forget what key he does it in, but I'm hitting it in, of course, a G, and then you can start working through your G major scale. Right? Of course, I'm just noodling here. So now when I think about a G major scale, I just think about that scale. It's got the one sharp in it, which is F sharp. So one thing that I just want to add to this C major stuff you're seeing over here, by just memorizing your C major scale, if you need a sharp or a flat, you just alter the note that you need to change, right? So if I want to change a C major scale to G major, I just change my Fs to F sharps. So everything else is the same, which is cool because once you start feeling that, you're not playing scale fingerings, you're starting to digging into knowing the notes on the guitar, which is really important. Now, certain things are going to be really, really cool. I've skipped over the idea, I talked about it in the course, of intervals. And this is the root, the 3, the 5, the 6, and all that of a scale. That's really important. But if you don't know the names of the notes on the neck, I would work on that first. I do hear these things as intervals as well at this point. To me, is a little more difficult. You just need to know the names of the notes. Boom. Like, you just need to know that. I think there was a video of Corey Wong saying that. Like, you're not an advanced guitar player unless you know the names of the notes on the neck. And it's kind of true. It's really important. Then it can fall into that ridiculousness of like, well, those guys didn't know anything about anything on any theory. Like, Hendrix didn't know how to read music. Well, you might not know how to read single note lines, but he knew the guitar really well and he knew music. So, but knowing the names of the notes on the neck is sort of the pretty imperative to getting better. But I think it doesn't have to be as difficult as we think it is. It's a little daunting, but it doesn't need to be, as long as you take it in a methodical way. One string at a time is the best way to start it, and go through those octaves. If you're just tuning in, you can go back to the beginning where I start talking about octaves. That's a great way to learn it. Then it all expands out into triads and all these other things. But once you put in the work on this, I keep on doing this. I see that when somebody says playing any scale related to C major, C Ionian, D Dorian, E Phrygian, F Lydian, G mixed Lydian, Aeolian, E Locrian. If I'm thinking about those names, which not too much, but I just happen to know that any of those modes or the scale I need is the scale of no sharps or flats. So suddenly everything goes, like it just lights up. If I want to make that position or transition to the key of F major, I know that I have a B flat. So if I know where all the B's are and everything else is the same, I just change my B to a B flat, B to B flat, B flat, right? I just know that through practice. But if you look at it that way, as opposed to memorizing the fingering, so switching from the key of C major to the key of F major is not that difficult. When I was younger, I would have to change fingerings. I'd be changing positions, and I know 2 F major fingerings, and it just stunk. But now, if we start to get this stuff together, one step at a time, the difference between C major and F major is only one note. That makes life so much easier than learning all these different scale fingerings. Now, scale fingerings are important. Yes, of course. Yes. But at the end of the day, I'm not really thinking, I play scale fingerings because I've practiced them and they're logical, but I'm not always thinking about scale fingerings. If I'm changing keys, I'm not thinking about what's the closest scale fingering to the next scale. I just know, okay, what note is different. So I can change from C major, F major. Oh. All right, so there's an F major scale fingering right there. But I didn't think about that. I just thought about, there's my B, B flat, right? To D major. I have an F sharp and a C sharp. So I just start to know that. So running through, your scales and all 12 keys in one position, that's an important thing to do. But if you start to see the difference between the scales as they relate to each other in one spot, that's when you start to really get to the next level. All right. Is there any questions on this? I know it's kind of a lot. Yeah, so let's see if we have any questions going on. First of all, thanks to everybody for being here. I appreciate it. As always, you guys are the best. Once again, the course is 60% off. Really like this course. And, it's kind of funny, just putting out a major scale course. I remember doing these kind of things when I was working with TrueFire. There's courses that, we're going to just, people that are going to sell well, like 50 smoking hot blues licks, people are going to buy them. Major scale course. You always put them out, you're always like, they scare people off. So I'm trying to get people, I think they're essential to have these kind of courses. But what I'm getting at, of course, I'm trying to get you to buy my course. That's yes, of course, but that's not the point of why I made the course. The point is, it does not have to be daunting, and it does not have to be boring, and it does not have to be tedious. It's all in the way you approach it. If you're trying to come at it from a musical standpoint all the time, as much as possible, yes, you have to memorize fingerings, but once you've memorized one position, just start to make some music with it. And the music you're trying to make is not, you're not trying to create a great solo. You are experimenting and having fun. Now, I talk about this in the course, and I want to talk about it right now too. You have to take time practicing being creative on the instrument. And I forget this all the time. And there's a great book by one of my favorite people in the whole world, is John Cleese from Monty Python. And he has a book on creativity. And he talks about that you have to sit down for hours a day, if you can afford the time to do that. It's one of my problems. I don't have that much time to sit down for hours and hours a day to try to write a new record or be creative. But if I want to think about how I can do this and mix in some creativity. So, okay, starting to memorize the notes. Now let's get to playing some music. And then I get lost in it and start to have a really great time. So the creative thing starts to happen. As long as I sit down with the intent of doing that, right? I want to practice this with intent. Got a half hour. I'm going to check out these major scales, and just even one new position or one string, and I'm just going to experiment with it and think about the notes as I play them. It's huge. So back to the Eric Johnson thing. So the Total Electric Guitar, when he played that thing in Austin City Limits as well, and he plays all those great chords. He does the intro of Cliffs of Dover with us all the time. And that was super inspiring to me. I don't know how old I was when it came out. And I just ended up doing the same thing. I just took a loop pedal, and actually at the time I didn't have one, so I just took a keyboard and played like whatever note I would want, like a G5, and I put a book on a sustain pedal and just play over the note and start to dig inside the scale. So there's all sorts of cool things you could do at that point. Like if I'm playing a G, well, I can do anything that relates to G, right? Or any notes. I could go to G minor, G Phrygian. I can go to all these different sounds. But the idea of just experimenting with it was really, really huge. And then you could put on a groove and play over that. So like a modal vamp. Once again, the only trap of playing over a track is then you start trying to solo and locking into the track and playing. You start falling into playing licks. If you're playing a drone, I find the licks fall by the wayside. And even a metronome. I'm just not talking about, metronomes are extremely important, but I'm not even talking about that. I'm talking about just experimenting playing the notes. And getting the sounds in your head. Okay. So let's see if we've got any questions. Everybody's here as always. And Phil Jones, thanks. And Jason Carter, Lee Child. Yeah, okay, Lee, you're just, I love the sound of thirds, fourths, and sixths. Yeah, in the course I show you, you start going through all of them. You just take two strings, you know? There's your C major scale in sixths. It's really important. This is, this is the way for us Star Wars nerds. Jason Carter picked up the major scale course this weekend. Great stuff. Thanks to all the guys who picked it up. Hey Lyle, what's up, man? Nice to have you here as always. So Jason Carter, so in effect, if you bought all those courses, you have a mega course. It's almost like I planned it. Yeah, well, I'm doing this on purpose. We've got our pentatonic courses, right? Because those, you want to learn those first. Major, minor, triad, soloing course. Mastering major, minor, triad courses, the triad bundle. Mastering, soloing is minor triads, soloing is major triads. Yeah. And then next I did the melodic soloing. So you're working on soloing with your triads in a melodic sense over kind of real world situations. And now we're going to try to take this thing to the next level. So where this is coming up next is, and once you kind of have a framework of working on this, everything starts to open up. The cool thing is you can kind of jump around a bit. If you keep on working on your triads, I'm kind of tired of working my triads. You could just jump to this. It's all going to come out. It's all the same thing ultimately. Okay. All right, so some questions popping up. All right. This is from Toby Jenner. What would you recommend, memorizing the scale one key at a time by using the circle of fifths, or increasing the number of sharps each time? The first thing I would do is memorize the key of no sharps or flats, which is the key of C major. And the reason why I say the key of no sharps or flats, it's the key of A minor, it's D Dorian, it's a bunch of other things, G Mixolydian. These modal names really scare people off. And people say, oh, I never use the modes, I never think about the nodes. It's just a name. It's really nice to have a name for these things. Nowhere have I ever in my whole professional career said to the bass player, oh, play a Mixolydian scale, because we're just supposed to know that. So I've heard other guys on YouTube go off and like, nobody talks about those things. I'm like, yeah, of course we don't. If you're playing with professional musicians, we don't talk about modes. I'm assuming you know that, But they are sounds that are really important. And so when I say the key of no sharps or flats, I'm not trying to be kind of, priggish about it. I just mean, if you memorize there's no sharps or flats, it's a number of different sounds. And then the next thing I would do is, you're saying I could go through the cycle of fifths, but what's really important, all right, two ways to work on this. Memorizing and running through your fingerings through their inversions is important. Guitar is very picture oriented, and if you're ripping and you're trying to play faster on a gig, you don't want to think, you're going to fall into fingerings. We all do. Totally cool. But if you want to get to that next level of playing with confidence and knowing the instrument, you want to know what notes are different between the two scales. So the cycle of fifths is cool, but it's a lot of work, and I'm not saying you should be, all of this is a lot of work, but I would go to a key that you're going to spend more time in. So in other words, if I'm going from the key of C, then I'd go to the key of G. Okay, and then, okay, what's another good guitar key? D minor, which is the same as the key of F. So that's got one flat, which is B flat. So, kind of think about the guitar keys. I think that's a good way to go. Because if you're going to the cycle of fifths and you're not playing through things to the cycle of fifths, it becomes pretty abstract. I know that from having done that a lot. So I take a sip of my kombucha. I don't know if it's good for you, I just like it. All that Brooklyn stuff. All right. Any more questions? Well, not a lot of questions today. Thirds. Messed up. right, so it's a lot of fun to be able to do that. So if I take the same idea, and let's maybe put it over an A minor chord, because C major is the same as A minor. Oop. Messed up my loop. Bend the notes. Melodic sequence going down. Fifths. Fourths. Sixths. Do that. Sevenths, which I love. I got that. Yeah, that's that. So sevenths are great because you can add a lot of nice tension. I've heard Mike Landau use those a lot to just kind of add in some cool, kind of rough tensions like that. So Sam Stamos, what's up, man? Pink Floyd vibes. Yeah, just put on a one chord vamp if you want, and just kind of mess around with them. Super helpful. All right. Any questions? It's a lot. Check out the course, please. This helps me out a lot, of course. And I really like this course. It's the way I view the fingerboard. And it's a combo of everything. But when I think of scaly ideas, that's the way I see it. So yeah, Phil Jones, lots of sevenths in Jeff's fusion tunes. Yeah, there are. Yeah, and even like the two notes in the intro, right, which is drop D, but like you've got. Let me get my other guitar sound here. Hold on. D minor, or D do re. Yes. What, drop D? Yeah. But that melody, it's all coming from this. My tune Highlands, the intro. That's all E major. I'm doing tenths. Talk about the tenths in the chorus. All right. Hickory third. So this is all from thinking about the major scale horizontally as opposed to vertically. And that's what the course kind of shows you how to do. I can't imagine doing this, like, I can't imagine seeing it any other way. I can't understand it anymore at this point. You know what I mean? Like, I spent so much time on it that, yeah, that's just the way. Guitar is tricky though, right? It's not like piano where you repeat the same. Piano's a tricky instrument, don't get me wrong, but learning piano, it's the same exact thing every octave. There's no change in fingerings. There's no change in anything. You learn a scale in one octave, it's the same exact thing in every octave. Now, it doesn't mean you can play the two together. I'm not saying piano is an easy instrument, but I'm saying piano is an easier instrument to understand than guitar is. Any stringed instrument is a pain. Violin, the same thing. The way it's tuned, you're going to have some doubled notes, and this fingering is different here, but you got this tuned differently, so it's a different fingering here. It's a pain in the butt. So it's just not, it's not you. So Brianna, sir, yeah, this sounds a bit classical. Yeah, for sure. Very Bachish, right? So if I did sort of like a, I'm gonna play an E minor, right? Maybe a little harmonic motor. Like an Eric Johnson E. What am I gonna do? Yeah, like that. So he's separating those open triads. I talk about that in the course as well. So he's just playing the notes of the chords on two adjacent strings and one non-adjacent string. Right, BB's saying piano is linear. Guitar is linear on one string at a time, though. That's the pain in the ass about it. Okay, Toby Jenner, I tend to have a Baloo Bear moment playing over a drone. Gone solid, gone mad. I don't know that. The dictionary's incorrect. I don't know that. Okay. Okay, Phil Jones. Important to get this is. Oh, thanks, BB. Important to get to the point. If you hear a note over a drone, you immediately know what interval is between the two notes with having to walk up the scale to match. Is it important? Yes. Excuse me. Yes. So to paraphrase that with me speaking English better, a great thing to know is the relationship of that note to the root that you're playing, right? So you want to know it by pitch-wise at a certain time, like what a root sounds like a 3 and a 5. So if I play the C chord once again, go back to that loop thing. I just changed presets, sorry. So if I go to the latch, there's my C. A little louder, sorry. So, it's a 5, G. To me, the 7 is very, really is pulling. The A, which is a 6. The 6 to me is very distinctive. It wants to pull me somewhere, right? It's the least stable, that and the 4th. Interestingly, the two notes that are the least stable, well, no, that's not exactly true. Well, a major pentatonic scale is a major scale with the half steps removed. I talk about that in the course too. So, but when that B, that 7th, really wants to resolve up, or that A wants to resolve down. This F, it's a sus, up, or. So I start to hear them as sounds as well. So yeah, it is important over time as you do that. And the cool thing is you start to memorize the notes and you start to like, that's the 3rd, that's the 6th. And then the more you do it, I feel like the more it starts to get in your ears. You know what I mean? I said, you know what I mean? You know what I mean? All right. So guitar is multilinear. I guess so. And I talk about in the course about doing horror vertically, like 2 note per string major scales are my favorites. Those are a brain buster because it's almost like when you played, Shine on Your Crazy Diamond, or something like you're playing a high note on a lower string and a lower note on a higher string, and you go this way, Keith decided to join. I know what you mean. So it is a lot of work, but if you want to be good, if you want to get better, you got to do it. I don't know anybody who doesn't know this who's not a good player. It's not going to make you a great player, of course, but it will certainly never harm you to know the fingerboard better. Guitar is one of those instruments you can just get away with it. because you got shapes and fingerings and it's instantly transposable. This is where piano is different. If I want to play a C major scale, and if I want to play B flat major, I just bring down my scale fingering down a whole step. That's easy. Piano players have to know that B flat contains a B flat and anybody? All right, E flat. So you need to start to know those things on piano. So, where you got the plus, you got the minus. So guitar is instantly transposable. All right. So I think you guys get the idea. But keep it musical. And that was what spurred me on. That, and like I said, watching, I got a few thoughts. Okay. When I first started working with Robin, one of the first things I really noticed after kind of just hanging out with him and playing guitar was he very rarely stays in any position. And any great player is that way, but since he's not a pentatonic player, like if you're playing, no offense to Stevie Ray Vaughan or someone like that, but those are very positionally based pentatonic sounds, as amazing as they are. So they're going to be in certain positions. But when you're thinking a little more freely, like someone like all the other guys, but I noticed it with Robin when we were playing together, there was never, he never doesn't think about positions, just those are the notes. And he just goes to those notes and plays them. And he talks about it in that True Fire course that, the first one that I produced it with him. So, just playing the scale and he went through a lot of the scales in different positions, but he was never thinking about them as scale fingerings and positions. Unfortunately, when I was growing up in a bit more of the shreddy metal era, it was all about playing, the scales were just, 3-note string major scales were just a way to get you to play fast. And after I started realizing like, oh, it's just another way to play to know the fingerboard. My views on how I see scales change. So for me, when I'm thinking G major, like I said earlier, everything just kind of lights up. And that's a whole different thing. Do I play pentatonic licks and scales? Yeah, of course. And blues licks, yeah. That's part of the sound of guitar. But as I'm thinking of an E minor chord and what I want to play over that, I want to play an E minor. Of course I can think, the scale, fingering if you want, yeah. Story. That's all fingering stuff, but cool little patterns. These repeated ideas you can see in the guitar, but then I started to see how the guitar started to work. So I'm thinking E minor, it just goes boop. Now, does that mean I play always the greatest thing in the world? No, of course not. It'll make you a better player, but does it make you, I think you know what I'm getting at. Just because I know the notes doesn't mean I play the greatest solos in the world. That's a whole other thing. But can I play better solos when I know the notes? For sure. And I know we've talked about it here a few times, and it's something that makes me absolutely insane. And I got some guy, I just ended up blocking him on the channel. He's like, the thing that guys like Jeff and Robin Ford and Larry Carlton and Joe Bonamassa don't understand, pretty good company to be in, is that when B.B. King played, he just played one note straight from the heart. He didn't know anything. He just played from the heart. And I'm like, that's really insulting to B.B. King, isn't it? No, he didn't. Of course yeah. And Larry Carlton couldn't play anything that nearly as good as B.B. King. And I'm like, well, B.B. really liked Larry, and everybody, it's just a thing of knowing less will make you better, or somehow, and it's not true. Knowing more is more. Knowing more is super helpful, and because it just gives you the freedom, and it opened up. So just playing before, before I thought about this, I never saw a major scale like. That's a cool thing to throw into a solo. Now, is it going to sound like you're playing a blues and doing that? No, but I don't play blues all the time. But does it inform my blues playing if you want to make the blues playing a little bit more adventurous? Hell yeah. All right. No, Brooklyn Lockdown #1, 5 years ago this week. Wow. That's crazy. That's where this whole thing kind of started. And some of you guys have been with me since then. And man, I appreciate it. I'm going to take a moment to give you guys all my gratitude for being here and hanging. And I feel like we've grown this together. I'm almost at 50,000 subscribers, which is pretty cool. And the amp collection has grown over time, as one of my friends pointed out. He's like, yeah, your video is just more and more amps. The video got better, but yeah, it all kind of started when COVID started. So, and it's grown. I got my own channel. I don't, all courses come out on my own, not with TrueFire anymore. No, nothing against TrueFire. It's on sale. How much is the course? It's on sale for 60% off. I think it puts it about $28. And it's over 2 hours long. It's over 2 hours long, yeah. So lots of stuff in there. Okay. Are there any questions, guys? It's been like about an hour. And BB's, we're still an hour. We moved our clocks and BB's staying up late for me, and I appreciate it. Some of you guys in Europe too. So got the course, and also don't have my today's PDF. You can get it for free. Just hit on the link for that. Also, I have my inner circle where you get everything, all my courses. You're automatically signed up to the master classes. I'll be having a master class in about 2 weeks, another one. And then, sorry, I've got a few questions there. Then you get an automatic seat in the master classes, which sometimes sell out. So there's always 100 people in it. And then in the inner circle, I meet with you guys twice a month for a live lesson, trying to do one on a weeknight. We're doing one tonight. And then trying to do one on a Saturday for the international guys. I know it's rough because that's tricky. I've got a few guys in Australia in there, so trying to take care of everybody. So breaking up between New York time and then like New York time and New York evening, which helps with other coasts. And then for Europe, it's a bit tricky. So I'm going to do them on a weekend morning. So that should work for everybody in Europe. So yeah, right. The U.S. times have changed, so people are popping up now to come in. We always forget, That's why I try to put Eastern time. I'm on Eastern time now, But when I was teaching more one-on-one, like the international stuff, I always mess. There's a certain time of year where Australia goes. I've got a large number of Australian students, which is awesome. They go this way and go that way, right? So at one point in time, like my clock goes that way, and so the time gets an hour in each direction, and the other side is pretty funny. Jason Carter, I asked earlier if you I missed this question. I asked earlier if you consciously switch between 2 notes per string and 3 notes per string when playing, or does it all become one thing? It all becomes one thing. But I've practiced 2 notes per string and I've practiced 3 notes per string. So you got the course, I think. So I break it down in all those ways. But that's what was helpful. I'm going to work on 2 notes per string and see what I can come up with. I'm going to work on 3 notes per string and see what I come up with. So I don't, when I switch between them as I'm playing, at one point it might have been conscious for sure, and now it's not. But I might say like, I'm going to string skip, but I don't consciously go, now I'm going to string skip. They just become things that you do, but I consciously practice string skipping, right? Now, one thing that I think is helpful with this too, or for me, when I'm looking at it, when I'm improvising, pretty much everything I've done it all before, and I might not have put it in that order, which I really like, So that's an important thing to think about. By practicing this stuff, it will come out in your playing. So some people are asking, is the price shown in the link 60% off? It should be, yeah. If you click on it, it should be 60% off, yeah. For sure. Yes, it is. Yes. If there's an issue with it, just shoot me an email for something. If you're getting a weird link, or just let me know. Why does the code not, let me click on the code. Hold on a second. Let me just double check. I'm opening this on a window. Why? Oh, damn, what is going on? Hold on a second, guys. All right, you're right. It's not showing the code. This happens sometimes. It drives me nuts. Okay, I can do this. I can do this while we're live. Thank you for bringing that to my attention. It should Every once in a while, the imperfect happens. Hold on a second. So, courses. It's always going to be, as my friend called it, picnic. Problem in chair, not in computer. I guarantee you that's what it is. It's definitely me. Hold on. All right, coupons. I am. Oh, I see what's going on. Okay. Hold on. The coupon expired. Oh, crap. Hold on a second, guys. 1 sec. I'm going to do a new coupon. Let's do it right now. Oh, man. It must have expired during the phone call from our initial mailer. Sorry. Wow. That expired while I was doing this call. How's that for ridiculous? All right. Hold on. Okay. Yep, I got it fixed. Okay, thank you. That's crazy. Because I checked everything beforehand. There we go. That's the good one. Let me change it in here. Wow, that's never happened before. All right, there we go. It's changed in both spots. Let me click on that. Make sure. Yeah, that should be working. Let me know if that's working or if it's not working. It's working for me. That's nuts. That's funny. Yep, P-back problem exists between computer and chair. The other one is mouse driver error. I like that one. That's pretty cool too. Mouse driver error. All right, so Eva, that's working right. Eric, you guys seeing that working right? Escalator face. Great name. Thank you for pointing that out. Like I said, that's crazy. I checked it right before I went on, so it must have when we did the sale. Yeah. Yeah, now it shows me $27.60. That's right. Yes, for sure. Yeah. Cool. And I think we talked about it. We can talk about it next week or not. My wonderful friends over at Marshall sent me this thing, which sounds awesome. You guys want to hear it for a second? Did I play it last week? Hold on. It's plugged in. Got the Ingve in the way. There we go. Cool sound and amp. I really dig it. Kurt Schaffenberg, how long will the coupon be good for? It'll be good for a while. I'll just leave it up for, a few weeks while this is open. While people will end up watching this. So yeah, people watch this later too. So it'll be open for a few weeks. Don't worry about it. And if look, guys, if the sale isn't happening, just email me. I'll hook you up with the original sale price if you came to it late. Don't worry about it. Okay. So this is the JTM 45 Studio. So it's a 20 watt. Go through the aux. And this is the normal input channel. So it's the bass channel, especially with a Strat. Does it sound exactly like a JTM 45? It's pretty close. But it's 20 watts. And I think it just sounds great and it looks really awesome. Check out the Les Paul. I love those amps with Strats. So maybe not in tune. Oh, here we go. Yeah. pretty sweet sounding amp. The neck pickup, but a little bit. It's not getting all flubby. A little bit because it's Marshall J1045. These are Ron Ellis LRPs. So, right, so it looks like the original one, you know, this approximation of the original logo as a escalator face. I love that saying. It's funny, like, I don't have a lot of tuning issues with this Les Paul. People talking about that. You know what it is, guys? You know what it is? It's just a really well cut nut, and I always put a little bit of lube in the nut here. Just always helps. I mean, every once in a while, I'll go dink, you know. But let's hear something else in it. This combo killed me. I'm not jumping to channels right now, but it's really great. Is that Robin's old P90 Gibson? Sure is. Yeah. 53. Frank, hey, what's up, man? Frank's asking, what pickups did I put in, what Ron Ellis pickups did I put in my DGT? The signatures. So let's hear those. Hold on. Want it to fall. Yeah, these are the signatures by Ron Ellis. I like the Grissom pickups a lot too, but this one. Okay, now, right, so this guitar's got more lows, so I'd roll back that low end. Now, little older strings, but the thing is, but the JTM 45s, they were kind of flubby. Clapton, when you listen to those records, didn't play on that neck pickup all that much. So, but the neck pickup on the LRPs have a certain bite, so it's all guitar specific. Right? Strings are a little dead. Then I go to the lower channel. Now I think they changed something a little bit from the original JTM 45s for sure. Well, I think for sure. I think they even talked about it on whatever show that was, Anderton's. I think the bass channel is a little more usable on its own than an original JTM 45. So what I mean is the original normal channel on a JTM 45 thing is darker. So I think they might have changed the EQ a little bit to make it a little bit more useful. It's been a while since I played a JTM 45, but usually the ones I've played, that channel's been pretty dark. Right? So I think that, I mean, I love the amp. It's super cool. All right. Dude, dancing around like a little girl. That little girl lick. Oh, you love it? Okay, you want to hear the little girl lick? Yeah. Let's get to the right guitar. Gotta remember it. Cool thing is the presence is a lot. Changed it a lot. I can't remember the rest of that, but you know, yeah, it's got that sound. There's a thing about the JTM45. It's kind of like flatter. The way they break up, it's really different than the Plexi or the Friedman, which is a later Marshall. There's something about it that's awesome, but the clean sounds on the JTM45 are killer. So thanks to my friends from Marshall. Look, I am, you know, some days I just can't believe it. You know, like you get a package from Marshall with your name on it from England. Like, what? Like, so the adult in me freaks out, but the kid in me to know at some point in my life that fucking Marshall's sending me an amp. I don't know. Like, wow. I get a little choked up about it. It's amazing. I can't believe it. I work with the people I work with. It's just, if you had told me, but there's something about Marshall sending you an amp that just was like, wow. Because I've always loved Marshalls, and you know, is there anything cooler, right, than a Gibson and a Marshall? Not really. As much as I love Strats, but you know what I mean. Just visually, Gibson and a Marshall to me is just freaking cool. How loud is your volume set right now? Oh, it's TV volume because I'm going to the aux with a 412 cabinet. So this is like TV volumes you hear. Don't be, okay, just for a thing, don't for a second, this goes down to 5 watts and 20 watts. Don't think for a second 5 watts is not blisteringly loud, especially in a house. Like, you know, I live in Brooklyn, so I don't want to be that guy and just crank stuff up all the time. I sometimes do. But, yeah, so it's really loud. It's pretty loud. What is really loud? I think you guys know what I mean. It's all relative, but 5 watts is loud. So I would still need some kind of, you know, attenuation for that thing to do its thing, in my mind. And then it goes to 20 watts, which is really, really cool too. Which is loud, you know, really loud. I'm not sure how gig loud it is for headroom. I haven't gigged with it yet. I'm a tad nervous. It depends on the gig and the drummer. Because 20 watts, I play a lot of clean stuff live, and so sometimes that 20 watts, 30 watts is always that spot where I feel really comfortable. 20 watts sometimes is just doesn't have the clean headroom that I really like at times, you know. If I really wanted to, I could run this into my power station and make it 50 watts. It's a 50 watt power station. But it sounds really great. Do you want to play those kind of licks with it the whole time? Yeah, it's great. And then, yeah, highly recommend. It's got an effects loop. Oh, hold on. I'm going to turn off my effects here. So we can hear the effects loop. This is my aux. I can't know if I can do this right now. So I put the del verb in the effects loop. Let's hear that just for a minute. Find my aux. I'm going to turn off the reverb and delay and the aux. All right, so dry. So it's kind of cool they put the effects loop in, right? And it's pretty quiet. There's a little bit of noise, but they all do. So. As Marshall, it's Marshall as a Marshall. So Nick Rainville, what's up, man? Everybody go check out Nick Rainville's channel if you have not yet. Matt Gibson, what's going on? Oh, Nick was saying same problem when he gig with a Victoria 20, the Deluxe. 20 watts just gets swamped by loud bands. Yeah, so that's my only, I would say, issue with performing with this amp. It's just the headroom that missed. And I've tried it in the past. I had like a I had a Bogner years ago, and I played a gig with my friend Angus Clark, you guys know, and he was using his Plexi, and he just completely killed me, like in the gig. I was just like, all right, I just sold the Bogner as quickly as possible. It was a Shiva, and as much as I love Ryan Holt is a great guy, I was like, this is just not happening. And then I went back to a Marshall. There's a mid thing that's going on, and I had a Sir Badger 18, and I had a Marshall 18 and a Marshall 20 watt. Like I tried them all because I'm like, oh, you want to get that amp break up, it's just not enough. So it's got to be 30 at least for me. 40 is perfect with a master volume at that point, or using pedals. So the gigging amp is the 2 Rocks because I've got the Studio Signature, which is 35 watts, which is screaming loud. I mean, that it's rated at 35 watts, but it's massively loud. So I bring those. But the cool thing, like I said, yeah, the power station, that is an option. And that's people ask me when I got the Friedman, the J.K. Lee, why did I get the 50 as opposed to the 20? For that reason, because if I want to play a rock gig and get that Marshall thing with all the bells and whistles of an effects loop and do the 4-cable method and all that kind of stuff, and with a really great master volume, I do want the headroom of at least 30 to 40 watts. So like an AC30 is 30 watts, so there's got to be headroom in that. But 20 watts can be a little rough. Now, if I'm playing a little club, I don't think it's going to be... It depends on what you're playing. If I'm playing like a bluesy rock gig and every note, it's a smaller club, it'll be fine. But my trio, you can get a little loud, and there's nothing worse than running out of headroom because you end up playing harder, and then you're just distorting too much and all that kind of stuff. Anyway. So let's turn that back off. Can't beat this UA reverb though. So the del verb's great in there, in that loop, delay and reverb. Okay, but that's the aux reverb. All right, any questions before I head out? I mean, we have to do some nerd gear talk right there, right? Okay, even that, I just was noodling. So let me just for a minute, real fast. So playing that in G, and I was playing that bluesy stuff, which is largely G mixed Lydian. I'm still thinking, yeah, blues licks, but in my mind, I'm also thinking with mistakes and everything. G major. It's all what you have there. If you practice it vertically, that's all the same scale. That's functioning as G Mixolydian. Pretty cool. So when you kill that, when you nail that major scale as C major or G major as the course is in, you're learning 7 modes. So it allows you the same stuff. Have we got any European dates for this year? There is some talk of something in Italy in the summer. I don't know. I will let you guys know. I already have a full tour booked for the Czech Republic in 2027, if the world hasn't imploded by then. So yeah, that's in 2027. That's all set up. Italy, hopefully. If Italy is just going to be a few dates, just kind of fly in, play a festival with my friend Hermano, and do a few things. I'm hoping that comes together. It's a lot of work. And honestly, it's really hard to pull together. I don't have the time to pull a tour together. Walter handles all that because he's got a whole network. But pulling a tour together of my own, it's really, really hard to do. Super time consuming, and the money is not going to be enough for me to fly my band over. So it's a lot of work. And honestly, I don't have a huge name as a performer. And so the YouTube thing can work, but not all the time. It's helped for sure. And played some good rooms as a result of it. But to support a whole tour, it's really hard to do. So that's just the honesty of it all. Like, I would tour more with my band if I could, but I mean, it just doesn't pay. That's it. It doesn't pay. I can't, as a 57-year-old dude, I'm like, I can't go on the road for about the same money I did when I was 25. When you play gigs, you use guitar cables or wireless? I never use wireless, like, ever. A bunch of reasons. One, I don't play places big enough that I need wireless, usually. When I was touring with metal bands in the 90s, I would use wireless because we had played some pretty big stages and stuff. They're cool, but the problem with the wireless is the way I play guitar and the way they interact with your volume knobs and interaction with they're better now. I prefer cables, but largely I'm not playing big enough places that it would warrant me using a wireless. Now, if I were playing a huge stage, yeah, sure, I'd go wireless, but I'm not playing any place that big where I would need one. We're in Italy. How's it going, man? I don't know yet. If anywhere, it's going to be around that Umbria area. Hopefully, if we play in Umbria, I'll spread out and maybe play in whoever will book me in a place that would make sense to do a bunch of dates in a row. But I love going to Italy anyway. And there's talk about it in September. A guitar breaks in England with David Grissom and myself doing it together. So we've agreed to do it. I think they're just firming up all the details. They haven't announced it yet, but I will announce that when it happens. So me and David together, which would be a ton of fun. He's one of my great friends, and we love working together, and that would be crazy fun. I heard musicians say that touring doesn't pay anything these days, but they have to do it to promote the record, and that makes the money. Yeah, touring doesn't pay anything. Records don't pay. Well, here's the thing. Excuse me. All right, here's the quick thing, and I'll let BB go. Here's what happened. Post-COVID, everybody got beaten up. All the bands, everything froze and went terribly, right? Oh, wow, BB with a 1 watt, 100 dB, 8 watts, 109, 32 watts, 115. And we know that, it goes incrementally, it's not incrementally, it goes exponentially, excuse me. So, 100 watt, 50 watt Marshall is not half as loud as a 100 watt Marshall, but it's more about the clean headroom. Okay. Thanks, BB. That's great. I never knew that exactly. That's pretty cool. So yeah, this gets loud, but it's about the headroom. All right. So what happens is now, and you're probably hearing about a lot of these bands, so many bands have gotten back on the road now because after COVID, they're trying to do that. Nobody really makes money on streaming, so they have to make money on the road. So bands have to be on the road to make more money. As a result of that, tons of bands are on the road. And then the clubs, there's so many people there, it's become much more difficult to get decent paying tours because so many people are out there. People are not going out as much as they used to after COVID because of, everybody stayed home and got used to it, I guess. So the gigs don't pay as much as they would used to. A lot of famous people or people doing really well had to cancel their tours because they couldn't make it work. Travel expenses has gone up, gas has gone up. Everything has gotten more expensive, but the gigs don't necessarily pay anymore. And the tours I do, I don't make any money. I pay the guys. And honestly, all the work that I do here with the teaching channel and everything kind of allows me to do that for a few weeks, to go and be a musician and play guitar for fun and, get back into it as a result of what I do here. So if I could not go on the road as the sole source of income, with the money that I make on the road. So thanks to all the people who buy the courses and the YouTube stuff, that's how it allows me to go on the road for a few weeks. But I can't go for too long because I got to go back and start making more money. So I look at it kind of like a vacation, and I get to play guitar, which is what I love doing, and I love performing, and I have a good time. And now you only live once, and this is kind of my wife's like, yeah, what are you not going to go do that? So that's kind of what it is. So, people ask me all the time, like, why don't you put out a new record? Because a real record, the way I want to do it, it's going to cost me like $20,000, $15,000 to $20,000. So that you're not going to make back. And I don't want to sound like I'm complaining. I'm not. I'm just giving you the guys the real honest answer. I'm not complaining. I love what we do, what I do. I love that hanging out with you guys. I'm so fortunate and work my ass off for this stuff, but this has allowed me a life I didn't think I would have, to be home with my family and play guitar and build things, and to be able to go on the road and certain places and actually be able to do that and then come back, because living on the road was not something I could sustain, nor did I want to. With BB, studium tours make money, my friend Tay told me, when she doubled my paycheck. Yeah. Well, yeah. If you're a big band, yeah, studio tours make a ton of money for sure. I'm not good for you, but yeah, I'm not at that level. You know what I mean? So, and none of my friends are either. So all these guys we know that we're friends with. I've been listening to. I did when Greg Koch came on my channel and I did his podcast. We talked about it. Like, he does clinics. It's about selling the merch. It's about pounding it out. And, the guys make a living, but what does that mean? Like, do you want the living of being on the road all the time? I don't. It doesn't appeal to me to be on the road all the time. I like my dogs and I like my family, and my cats. And so you can do it, but big bands, yeah, man, if those big tours are making a ton of money, you can just look at the Billboard stuff. Okay, anyway. That was not a complaint, by the way. I would like to go on the road a little more. Sure. I don't want to be on the road all the time, but if I can go out like a few weeks a year, like a month out of the year split up or something like that, I would love it. I love playing. Love meeting everybody. I love performing. Keeps me interested in the guitar. That's what I got into it for. I love it. So Bruce Foreman told me, when people ask him to go on tour, his first question is, okay, how much is this thing going to cost me? It's pretty much, that's true. Yeah. Especially when you're playing music that's not super popular. I don't play popular music, So, okay. Like I said, I'm not complaining. Figured out a way to play the guitar every day of my life. So, and once again, you guys are a huge component of that. So thank you. All right. So, of course, hope you guys dug it. A bunch of you guys have it already. Thank you for letting me know that link wasn't quite right. BV, man, thanks as always. And thanks for your help. BV was really, honestly, I hadn't really thought much about the octave thing. I was going to do more about the one string at a time. So BV talked about, he sent me an email with his thoughts on things that worked for him. So that was helpful, BV. Thank you. So to everybody's here, thanks so much. I'll see you guys next week. Of course, a video Saturday, I'm hoping. And I'll see you guys later. Thanks so much, everyone. Take care.